What's up guys? Today I want to teach you how you can make your spaceship movement in Unity very easy and simple way. Even if you are completely new to Unity and C Sharp, you can still listen and basically learn how to do it. By the way, I have this project opened. This is from my 2D space shooter game course. And if you want to check this out and learn how you can make fully working space shooter game, link will be in the comments down below. Now let's start working on our spaceship movement. Before we start, we obviously will need some spaceship models, so just drag and drop your spaceship model into your scene. And in order everything to work, we should add one main component, which is this rigid body. And if you don't know how to add this rigid body, basically you just need to select your player, scroll down all the way, and here you will see this add component button. You just need to click this add component and window will pop up. And here in the search box, we can type rigid body and add the rigid body 2D, not the rigid body, because other one is for the 3D space. So we will add rigid body 2D. And it adds some physical sense to our game and to our spaceship. And now our spaceship will have some gravity, air resistance, mass, and so on and so on. And we need this rigid body in order to move our player. Now, before we begin to actually code our player movement, I want to explain a few things so that you will easily understand what and why we are doing later. Now, Unity has input manager, input system, and if we go, for example, edit, project settings, here we can find input manager, which has all the different inputs and buttons and so on. So basically we can access any key on our keyboard or mouse with the help of this input manager. It also has these horizontal and vertical inputs, and they already have some keys. It's just default keys, left and right, A and D, and also it has the vertical input with the same up and down. And the key point is that we are able to access these horizontal and vertical axes from our script. That's the one point. Second point will be to for example, when I move my player horizontally, so forward and backward, just like this, look at my position on the X. As you see, it changes. So it means that to move our spaceship forward and backward, we need to change this position on the X. And for the up and down, we should change position on the Y. That's the second point. Third point is that we have this rigid body, and in Unity there is few different methods how we can move our game objects, and one of the methods is to use this rigid body. Now, let's create C# script. I will deactivate my player script, and let's create new C# script. To create script, you just need to go in the assets folder on the empty space, right click, create C# script, and let's call this one player controller, just like this. Just a little reminder, you should not have any space in your naming of your script because it will mess your script up. So just without space, call it however you like. We will add this script into our player model. So let's drag and drop it into our player model, and to check, we will select player and we will scroll down and it should be here, our player controller script. Now we can double click to open in Visual Studio. Now, as I said, we are able to move our spaceship with the help of our rigid body. And to do that, there is main method, which is called RB, rigid body dot velocity basically. And when you are using this rigid body dot velocity, you are just creating new vector 2, which takes two values, one for the X and one for the Y. Now, we know that in order to move horizontally, first let's make forward and backward movement. In order to move horizontally, we should change the direction and position on the X. And also we know that we can get some input about our horizontal axis from our input manager. And basically, in order to move your player on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis, you just need to get horizontal input, and you just need to multiply it to some speed. And that's it. It will make your game object move. But as you see, we have lots of red underlines because we should create some variables in order to be able to use all of these methods. So variables are just like containers, and there we can store different informations in those containers. For example, about our speed, also about our inputs, and so on and so on. So let's create a variable which will be float, public float, and let's call this one forward speed for our forward and backward movement. Also, we should get reference for our rigid body because Unity doesn't know what is the rigid body just yet. So we will say private rigid body 2D, and let's call this one RB. But Unity still doesn't know what this RB is. We should tell him that we are referring to our player's rigid body, to this rigid body. And to do that, we will use getComponent method. It basically gets component for any object, any component which is attached to our player. So we can say in the start function, RB equals getComponent, and the component name is rigid body 2D. Don't forget brackets and semicolon. Now we are able to use this RB. Next step will be to get information about our input and store it in the variable. And for that, we will create two variables, private, float, and let's call first one horizontal input, comma, and let's call second one vertical input because we will need both of them. Now, first thing that we will need in the update is to get our horizontal input. And to do that, we can say input.getAxisRow, and in brackets and in semicolons, we can say horizontal. And it will get information about our horizontal input. But we should store this input in some variable to have shorter code, basically. And to do that, that's why we created this horizontal input variable container. We will just say here horizontal input equals our horizontal input. And for the vertical, we will do exactly same. Vertical input equals input dot get axis row, and in quotation marks we can say vertical. You just need to be careful because these horizontal and vertical are case sensitive, so you should need to now write them correctly in order for them to work. But the main point is that now we have access to horizontal and vertical input, and we are storing them to our variables. Now, as I said, first of all, we should create a movement on the horizontal axis, and now we should rewrite this code basically. And for the rigid body, our rigid body now is RB, so we can say RB dot velocity equals new vector 2, and horizontal input should change our movement on the x-axis, and this vector 2 takes two parameters basically, x and y. So first will be x, and for the x we will get this horizontal input which we are storing in this horizontal input variable. So we can say here horizontal input times our forward speed. And for the y, we are not changing y just yet. So in order to leave things unchanged, what we can do, we can say rb.velocity.y, and it will make our y unchanged. We don't need this line anymore. And we can basically save the script. Nothing really complicated here. Let's take a look one more time in order to understand everything correctly. We are just getting input of our horizontal axis. We are storing it into some variable, and within our rb.velocity method, we are passing information about our inputs, and we are multiplying it to some speed to have some speed. So if we save the script, if we go back, let's first scroll down. We should tell player controller what we want forward speed to be, and let's make forward speed to be 7 or 5. Let's make it 5. And if we hit play now, when I basically click left and right or A and D, as you see, our spaceship is moving. Now, let's make same for the vertical movement. All we need to do is to add one variable for our vertical speed. So public float, and let's call it vertical speed. And here in the rb.velocity, we already have these horizontal movements. And only thing that is left to change this y movement, we will pass here vertical input times our vertical speed. Very, very simple. We can save the script, and now we will have movement on the all of the axes, and it will be a very simple way how you can basically make your spaceship movement. Oh, we forgot to assign some speed value for the vertical, and if I click up and down, nothing will really happen now. So we will select player, we will scroll down, and for the vertical speed, let's make it 7. And you can make those numbers bigger or smaller. It's really up to you, just play test. But the main point is that now everything is working. We are able to move up and down, left and right, however you like. So that's all. If you like my videos and want to see more videos like this, please don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell. See you soon.